Wait. Once you go Mac, you don't go back. Pfft, that shit is facts, man. Once you go Mac, you don't go back, bro. How's it going, everyone? RemoteBry, the one and only. And today we're doing a bit of a different kind of video. I want to talk about my first MacBook, which is the 2020 MacBook Air, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage. And I just want to say this is one of the greatest devices I have ever purchased. It came out in 2020, and in 2024 I purchased this and it has been phenomenal. I'm gonna be doing a lot of comparisons with my Dell XPS 15 that I got in 2020. You know, wait. The same year this dropped. I'm gonna be doing a lot of comparisons between these two, and even my gaming desktop, which I'm recording this on right now. So I've never been much of a Mac guy, or I guess I haven't been a Mac guy at all. I had the iPhone 4S, and I switched to Galaxy, and I just like the customization better. And then I got an iPad, and that's, oh man, don't even get me started with the iPad and how useless it is. But anyway, and sorry, this video is gonna just be so not structured, it's crazy. I have some bullet points on things I want to talk about, but it's just kind of my raw feelings about the whole experience. So I bought this from a guy on the Facebook Marketplace, and he originally had it listed for $400, I think, but I talked him down to $325. Met him in a Meijer parking lot. For those of you who don't know what Meijer is, it's kind of like a Midwest grocery store thing. Met him in a Meijer parking lot and did a drug deal with this MacBook. Almost immediately, I just knew it was something special. Like, I had to work that day, so I was booting it up. I was kind of fiddling around with it, playing with it, and I'm like, this has potential. It has potential, but I didn't get to download all my programs and stuff yet because I didn't have Wi-Fi. So I'm like, all right, we'll see when I get home. I get home, I download DaVinci Resolve, Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, all that stuff. It runs everything phenomenally. I've used Windows laptops all my life. I've never had a Mac. I've had one iPhone, and it was the iPhone 4S, you know, when Siri first came out. I've had 2 iPads because the first one kind of got broken, and then, you know, anyway. So I've kind of been not in the Apple realm, but you know, I keep my eye on them. I see what's going on. You know, I like technology, so I'm not an Apple hater. I'm not like, oh, the iPhone is terrible. Oh my God, the Mac is no better than the Mac. I just have my preferences, I guess. So yeah, I've never had anything against Apple, really. And let me just do a quick rundown on why I decided to get this MacBook in the first place. Originally, I wanted a device to edit my videos on the go. You know, I make gaming videos, and sometimes I just don't want to sit at my desk and just, you know, for hours and hours just editing. You know, I want to go out, you know, go to a friend's house, go to my parents' house or whatnot, and, you know, just have my laptop and just be able to just whip it out and get some editing done real quick if I have some time, maybe go to a coffee shop or something, you know, just to get out and just not be cooped up in my office all the time. So what I did originally is I bought a iPad with the M1 chip because they announced that DaVinci Resolve was coming to it. So I'm like, okay, DaVinci Resolve coming to the iPad? Like, the iPad is super small and sleek and like very easy to use and take anywhere. So I'm like, okay, sweet, you know, sign me up. You know, I'll give it a shot. Check the Facebook Marketplace, found an iPad for pretty much $300. You know, they're selling for not that high, just like, I guess, these MacBooks. Actually, I'm gonna go and grab it. All right, so here's my iPad, you know, in all its glory, I guess. So I got this originally because I'm like, okay, I want a device to edit videos on the go. And DaVinci Resolve is coming to the iPad, and I started this whole journey with DaVinci Resolve because it was free. You know, I'm like, okay, it's free software. And I eventually got the paid version because on Windows computers, they won't let you render with the graphics card unless you have the paid version, which was the main reason that I paid for it. But I guess now they added AI features and whatnot that's in the studio version. Anyway, so I got this because I'm familiar with DaVinci Resolve, and it's very sleek and thin, and you can take it anywhere and then edit. So I was hoping I'd be here just, editing, yep. They come out with DaVinci Resolve. Did I delete it? I think I deleted it because it was so useless. But they came out with DaVinci Resolve on the iPad, and it only had the cut page and the color page. And these are 2 pages I almost never fuck with. Like, I'm exclusively in the edit page, Fairlight page. I'll go to the color page if I need to blur something out or do something in that regard, but that's about it. So it comes out on the iPad and I'm just like, what the fuck is this? I waited a few months for it to come out on the iPad so I can edit on the go, and it was terrible. I mean, it's not terrible, and there are ways to work around it to where you do get all those pages on the iPad, but it's like just so cumbersome. I stuck through it. I'm like, okay, let's see, maybe we can make something happen. You know, I'll try to edit something. I'll try to edit some clips, some shorts, something. I'll make this iPad useful somehow. And no matter how much I tried to make it work, I was just way more inefficient than if I just waited until I got home to edit on a real computer. Like something where it has all the pages, it has all the files, I can do everything I need to, because this is just not cutting it. Which is why the whole like fucking, oh, it's really a computer. This thing is not a goddamn computer, all right? This is not even close to being a computer. Shut the fuck up. It has the power of one, it could be one, but software wise, this thing is fucking, I don't want to say useless, but I'd say unless you're an artist who uses this pen, it's fucking useless. Whatever you can do on here, you can do way better on any computer, any desktop, any laptop, almost anything. It's just better. Just because the software is not there by Apple's design, because they want you to get the MacBook, which I guess is what I did, so I guess they got me. But anyway, ultimately, this thing wasn't cutting it. It just wasn't editing videos how I wanted to. It would crash whenever I would try to like scrub through a video really fast to get to the end. It just wasn't a good experience for editing. So I'm like, damn, okay, whatever. Then I just resorted to editing on my Dell. I've actually had this for longer than the iPad, and editing on this thing, how do I even put it? I don't like editing on the Dell for a few reasons. One of which is you don't get all the power when it's not plugged in. If it's not plugged in, you get like 70 or 80% of the power or something. So it doesn't even give me all the oomph that I need. And this thing isn't even that powerful. It has an i7, I think a 10th gen i7, and a 1650 graphics card. And my goofy ass, I thought, oh, 1650, that must be really good because 1080 is pretty good and that's enough to edit. But my goofy ass is just like, oh, 1650 is higher than 1080. So, you know, it must be more powerful. Wrong. It's way weaker than a 1080. So this thing is actually my first computer that I got with a dedicated graphics card of some kind, but it was still weak. Ultimately, you don't get all the power available, and it's not that much power to begin with. I have to plug it in while I'm editing to get all the power, which makes it run a little smoother when I'm scrubbing through the timeline and whatnot. But the issue with that is it gets super hot, like really fucking hot. I can't even explain. Okay, here, I'll put it this way. I would make a bet with someone and I'm like, hey man, leave your finger on this computer for longer than 20 seconds. I bet you cannot do it. I promise you can't do it. That's how hot this thing would get. It gets crazy hot in your lap. The keyboard is crazy hot. And on top of that, the fans are blowing on, I don't want to say it's PlayStation 4 level, but the fans are doing numbers, okay? The fans are going crazy. So it's hot. It's not that great when scrubbing through the timeline. I pretty much have to have it plugged in. So I'm like, why do I have a laptop if it has to be plugged in for me to use it how I want to use it? I might as well just use my desktop, which is a better experience because it's more powerful. So editing on this was a no-go. This is actually the computer that I recorded my first few videos on. I kind of set it up and plugged it into a monitor and I recorded on it, I edited on it, and it got the job done for the time being, but eventually I got a desktop because I didn't want to keep setting it up every time and then take it somewhere and then come back, set it up. So I'm like, okay, I need something where I can just come in here, stream or record and just shut it off and it stays set up all the time. That's when I elevated from this thing. And I actually got my desktop from someone on the Facebook Marketplace as well. Hey, the Facebook Marketplace, if you guys aren't on the Facebook Marketplace, you're really missing out because I found some gems on here. For me, at least. This is not good for editing. This wasn't good for editing. So I'm just like, what am I supposed to do? I want to edit on the go. I want to not be locked down in my apartment editing videos for hours. I want to at least go out and be around people and see things and do things. So fast forward a year or so from getting the iPad, I end up finding this on the marketplace. You know, it's some guy, I forgot his name. Damn, I want to give him a shout out. All right, I found the guy's name. The guy's name is Matthew, who I got it from. Matthew, if you're watching this, shout out to you because this shit is amazing. I end up getting this, right? And it ran everything beautifully. I can't even explain it. It scrubs through footage better than my desktop. And my desktop's nothing crazy. It's I think it's also a 10th gen i7. It has a 2060 Super, 16 gigs of RAM, and like half a terabyte of storage for an SSD or whatever. But I have, you know, external drives that are like 8 terabytes and whatnot. But this thing scrubs through footage better than my desktop. And I'm just like, what the fuck? This thing only has 8 gigs of RAM and 250 gigs of storage. And I guess, I don't know what they're doing on the software side or with the chip, but I guess this M1 is fucking amazing. Which, you know, could have fooled me because my iPad with the M1 kept crashing DaVinci Resolve, couldn't scrub through shit like it was just a bad experience. So I'm like, okay, maybe the M1 is just not optimized or whatever. I got this thing, the M1 is amazing, brilliant, fucking great. I don't even know how to like gather my thoughts. I have bullet points, but I'm just like going off the cuff. In 2024, this is my favorite device overall. I like this more than damn near anything. I guess my phone I like a little more just because convenience and you can call people and text or whatever. But computing device, this thing is amazing. And I'll tell you why. I made a list. Here's a comprehensive list on why this thing is amazing. The build quality. You know, the build quality is phenomenal. And it's not even, I think the Dell build quality is honestly equally as great in terms of just like the shell of the design, how it feels. Both keyboards are amazing. The keyboard on this is great. The keyboard on this is great. But this just is so, for what it can do, it's so unbelievable because it's so thin. This thing can edit 1080p 60 footage easily. It can edit 4K 60 frame footage easily. This little piece of shit, this super thin device. And not only can it edit it easily, it has no fans. So it's completely silent. I don't think I've ever had a laptop with no fans up until this point, but I fucking love it. Who needs fans when it just tackles everything effortlessly? And yeah, it gets a little warm, but compared to the Dell, this thing gets unbelievably hot. I just got done editing 4K footage for a client on this, and it was warm, but nowhere near the Dell. Like, it was not even comparable. It was scrubbing through the footage like nothing. It was just handling the renders. Okay, here's a little downside. Now, while it's easier and better to edit on this than the Dell, because the Dell is kind of stuttery and like it didn't really move how I wanted it to, the renders on this, they're actually worse than my Dell. Like when I'm actually rendering it and just waiting for it to complete, my Dell is faster even not plugged in on its 70% of power. Even when it's not plugged in, it's faster than this for renders alone. But when it comes to like scrolling through the timeline, the image showing up immediately and not stuttering and everything, this is much better. Another thing, the battery life on this is unbelievable. Even when you're editing 4K video, the battery lasts like 5 hours, 6 hours while editing. Editing is not an easy task. There are only certain computers that can edit and really edit. To be able to take this anywhere and edit and not have to plug it in is just magical for me because I'm not restricted to my office anymore. I can go out, go to coffee shops, and that's actually what I've done. I've been going to coffee shops now, you know, grabbing a cup, just sitting down, talking with the locals, just having a good time, seeing people and just getting out of my apartment, which is what I couldn't really do before. And going back to my Dell, don't even get me started with the fucking battery life on this thing. This thing fucking sucks with battery life. It's terrible. It is the worst thing I've ever had ever in terms of battery life, and I'll explain why. So when I bought this, I got the 4K screen because that was the only option that was also a touch screen. So I was like, okay, I would like the touch screen because I would like another input method in case, like, you know, the keyboard fails, something fails, and I just want another option to scroll or type something in. So I got the 4K version, touch screen, and that was a huge mistake. Powering a 4K screen, you know, 4K, what does that mean? 4 times pretty much of 1080p or 10,000, you know, 4K is 4 times the size of, you know, 1080p pretty much. And you know what that means? 4 times the power. I don't know if it's 4 times, but like more power to power the pixels. Out of the box, this thing, it was advertised for I think 4 hours of battery life. I have never, ever gotten 4 hours of battery life on this without putting it into power save mode. If it fully charges, which takes about 2 hours, it'll drain in about an hour and 45 minutes, I promise you. And that's just like scrolling through the internet doing basic shit. If I'm editing video on this, it'll last like 40 minutes. 40 minutes editing video. And you can't put it in power save mode when you edit videos because putting it in power save mode disables the graphics card. It's like, oh, we want to save power, so no graphics. So when I put it in power save mode and try to edit something in DaVinci Resolve, when I boot up DaVinci Resolve, they're like, hey man, you don't really seem to have a graphics card. And I'm like, what the fuck? I clearly do, but because I put it in power save mode, it disables the graphics card and it just uses like the Intel integrated graphics or whatever. So battery life, complete dog shit. I cannot leave the house with this thing and not have a charger. And that brings me to my second point. My second point. It's really not my second point. I've made a lot of points. But anyway, this bastard. What was I gonna say? God damn it. Oh, wait, I just remembered. Okay, so talking about chargers, this thing can charge off of damn near anything. If you have a USB-C cable in anything, it'll pretty much charge this thing. You could plug it in the car USB port, you can plug it in your computer, you can plug it in your phone's charger with the wall brick, you can plug it in the iPad charger with the wall brick, you can use the charger that came with it. You can charge this thing off of anywhere. You can get power pretty much. I feel like, honestly, if I plug this into my Dell, I could probably charge this off of the Dell battery just through the USB port. And that kind of freedom, it gives you comfort, if that makes any sense, because sometimes this thing has almost died and I'm like, damn, you know, I'm on like a road trip or something, but pretty much I can just plug this in to the car USB port and it'll charge. It doesn't just like, I mean, it depends on the USB port, of course, but it charges like significantly. Like if you use it while it's charging, it'll probably still gain some charge unless you're editing videos or something. But again, going back to the Dell, there's going to be a lot of comparisons between this and the Dell, just so you know, because the Dell is kind of my greatest laptop I've had up until this MacBook. Going back to the Dell, this bastard won't charge off of anything that is not the cable that it came with. If it's not the cable it came with, it will not charge. I don't care if you have the iPad power brick, if you have the power brick from this laptop and plug it in, because you know they're all USB-C. It doesn't charge off of anything that is not the charger it came with, which means if I don't have that charger or it gets broken or something, I'm fucked. And I actually have 2 chargers because I returned this back. One of the chargers broke, and if that broke and I didn't have the second backup charger, I would need to buy another charger. I can't just improvise with anything else. You need the Dell charger for this, and nothing else works. I've tried almost everything I could possibly try. But that brings me to another point. Now that we're on the topic, I returned this to get a replacement. Why? Remember that initial 4-hour battery life? For some reason, I don't know what the deal is, but it degraded on my first one. So my first one, it started out, actually, it was a little over 4, was it over 4 hours? I don't even remember. But it was close-ish to the 4-hour mark that they were advertising. But over the course of like a few months, I just started noticing worse and worse battery life, like significantly, like to the point where it was just down to like 2 hours, 2.5 hours or something of battery life. and it takes 2 hours to charge this. So it's like, what the fuck? I'm using it almost as much as I'm charging it. I return it because I'm like, the battery life's not that good. I can't really do anything with this. And I had the warranty. So I'm like, hey, can you guys give me a new one? The battery's fucked up. They're like, okay, sure. They send me this one and it was pretty good for a little while. But then it has the same issue. The battery life starts off at 4 or 5 hours or whatever. Then it degrades to like 2 hours in the course of months, like 6 months or a year. That is unacceptable. That shit is fucking laughable. So we have the design capacity and then the full charge capacity. The design capacity is 84,000, what is that, milliwatt hours, megawatt hours, I don't know. Anyway, the full charge capacity now is 40,000. So out of the box it was 84 and now it's 40,000. It's half. And the battery life was already not great because it has a 4K screen for no reason. And not only that, on this one, the trackpad for some reason just doesn't work all the time. Like, it works most of the time, but sometimes it'll just stop working while I'm using it. Almost like it shuts off and shuts back on and shuts off while I'm using it, because I'll be scrolling and then it'll stop working, but I'm still scrolling. It'll go again and then stutter. I think I have a video. I'll put that video in for you guys to see it, but it like doesn't work all the time, which is a pain in the ass, especially when you're in the flow, you're getting some work done, you've been there for hours, you're feeling good, very productive, and then the trackpad is just, it stops. It goes through a 1 to 3 minute period of where it wants to work, but it doesn't want to work. It stutters. So shitty battery life, almost shitty trackpad. I would chalk it up as shitty, but if I'm being completely honest, the trackpad on this is as good as the trackpad on the Mac when it works. It's larger, the clicks feel good, it's good for scrolling and everything. But when it stutters, it just fucking falls apart for me. I don't like it. Now that we're on trackpads, the trackpad on this, it's pretty okay. The trackpad on this, I mean, it's good. I mean, it didn't blow me away because, you know, I had the Dell and that trackpad was good, but the trackpad is solid on this, no complaint. Okay, another point is, and this is really a small thing, you could probably like go in the software and change it. I don't know, maybe you guys can tell me, but the backlit keyboard on this stays lit up all the time, even when you're not typing on it. On the Dell, it lights up when you use it, but then it goes back dark when you're not using it. And when you're using it at night, that's not really ideal because you have to push a key to get it to light back up or use the trackpad. And it's like, I wish I could just have it lit up so I can just push what I want immediately, but it's a minor thing. It's a minor thing. Another thing I like about this is the small size. The form factor for this is so nice to hold. And I know they changed the design for like the M2 and the M3 because this is the last Intel-ish Mac, because the other version of this, they had an Intel chip, so they still had the same design. Then they changed it for the M2. But this design, this wedge shape where it's like thinner at the bottom and then thicker at the top, I'm a fan. It just feels so sleek and nice, and I just like holding it. Again, the Dell, great build quality. It's great. You know, larger laptop. This is a 15 and this is a 13.3 inch, I think. So it's heavier, bigger and whatnot, a little more cumbersome, thicker, but this form factor, man, this is just, I like it. I fucks with it, man. I fucks with it. I can't say anything else about it. Another thing I like about this Mac, the animations, man. The animations really make a difference. Having smooth animations really gives this thing the illusion that it's more premium than the Dell, which it is, but it isn't at the same time. I've kind of played with these laptops next to each other extensively over the last month or so, and ultimately the conclusion I came up with, if I'm being honest, they do the same thing just as fast. But because this just has smoother transitions and animations when you're like going from one page to another, going to the desktop, it gives the illusion that this runs way better than the Dell. But then you look on paper and you're getting the same things done in the same amount of time. But the thing with the Dell, or I guess Windows is kind of janky and jagged, and some people chalk it up as it's faster because it spends less time with animations and just kind of like gets straight to it. But in terms of feel, it feels more jank. Actually, here's a good example. When you boot up Microsoft Edge, and you like just bring it up from the dock, there's like just this random flash for like half a second, a flash of white, and then it goes to like the screen. And I noticed this even before I got the Mac, but I'm like, why is this random flash of white showing up whenever I open up Microsoft Edge over and over again? And you really notice it at night. It's almost like you just get hit with a flash grenade for half a second. I keep Edge in dark mode, so it's just flash of white, then dark gray. But just little things like that is just what makes it not feel premium. If Windows could just nail their animations, it would just feel so much better. If you just had all the animations and all the transitions just super buttery smooth every time, it would feel just as good as this. And I think that's where the Mac wins. It feels good to use. Not that Windows feels bad. I've been a Windows dude all my life, but it feels good just playing with the animations. Like you can just scroll through all the animations and bring up folders and close them and open them and close them and open them, and it's almost like a fun mini game, you know? It's just a fun little thing to do. Another thing that I like about the Mac, which kind of doesn't really matter because I think the iPad is fucking useless because Apple wants it to be. This thing can seamlessly kind of like be used with my iPad. So if I set up my iPad right next to it and then I scroll the cursor to the side of the screen, it'll leave your screen and automatically connect to the iPad, and then you can now use the trackpad on the Mac to control the iPad and swipe through apps and do things. And when the cursor is on the iPad screen, you can actually adjust the volume and the brightness from the MacBook brightness and volume controls on the keyboard. So that's a pretty cool thing. It's kind of minor because again, the iPad is useless. From a software standpoint, it is useless unless you're, you know, an artist and you draw a lot. But it's cool when I have a video on the iPad, or I'm like showing someone something on the iPad, but I'm still using my computer, and you know, it's cool to have that little bit of seamlessness, you know. Another benefit that I like as a first-time Mac user is AirDrop. I mean, I had an iPad, so I've kind of used AirDrop a little bit. AirDrop is very useful when you're dealing with Apple people, so I've come to realize the pros in that. That's a pretty cool thing, you know, nothing super game changer, but you know, it's pretty cool. All right, so now that I've slurped this MacBook, it's time to get to a little bit of things that I don't like. And they're pretty minor in the grand scheme of things, but they're still worth noting for me. And these are just things that I've noticed after a month of use, so maybe you guys can help me out if, you know, give me some tips or something. One thing that's worse on this than, you know, on my Dell or my desktop is using OneDrive. Like OneDrive just works so seamlessly with Windows, you know, which makes sense because, you know, Microsoft made it. Like to the point where OneDrive is in your files and you can pretty much just use it as if it's your files seamlessly. And for the Mac, you can kind of do the same thing. Like I have it in my Finder folder, which is like the file explorers for Apple, I guess. But I have it in my Finder folder, and you can still copy and change things from the folder menu itself, but it just doesn't sync all the time. And I've come to realize that what you have to do is there's a OneDrive icon at the top. Once in a while, you have to like click it just to like reawaken OneDrive so that it, you know, continues to sync. Because I think Apple, what they do is they shut things off that aren't being used. So it kind of shuts OneDrive off in the background because it's like, why is OneDrive running and using battery? But when it does that, it doesn't sync your files how it would on my Windows computer, where OneDrive pretty much has free reign to do whatever it wants. But that's just a minor software thing, I think. It's nothing too crazy. Another thing I don't really like about this, if I'm being honest, and this is just because I got the bummiest M1 MacBook I could get, because, you know, it was my first one, so I was kind of just trying it out. I don't really like how this one has, I don't know if you can see it, it has two USB-C ports, but they're only on the left side. And on this side, it has just the headphone jack. But I feel like I've been in more places where the plug would be more useful on the right side than the left, whether the plug outlet's over there, or it would just be a better spot to have my external SSD, you know. But the two USBs on the left is like, I'm not a huge fan. At least have one on the right, or put one on both sides, but you know, what can you do? Another thing that kind of had me fucked up with this, and I'm actually gonna deal with that today as I'm shooting this, my DaVinci Resolve Studio license won't stay active on this computer for some reason. Like every time I shut off the computer or reboot DaVinci, it asks me to put in my activation code like I haven't been using this bitch for 4 hours before that. So I don't know what's good with that, but I think that might be just because I updated it to Mac OS 15. or I think Sequoia is what it's called. Ever since I did that, I've been having that problem, so it's probably something that can get fixed. But again, you know, something worth noting. So I've been kind of shitting on Dell, so my bad, but I'm gonna give you guys some credit. It's kind of like backhanded compliments, but you know, it is what it is. So this Dell has a better screen than the MacBook. It gets brighter, more pixels, better resolution, touch screen. You know, no MacBooks are touch screen as far as I'm concerned. I guess if you count the little touch bar, but that doesn't count for me. So this screen in every way is better than the MacBook screen. Because the screen is better, again, that's what leads to some problems. Because it's a 4K screen, it drains the battery like crazy, to the point where I'm almost convinced it degrades the battery rapidly because the screen is just so much of a power drain. And I just mentioned that it had a brighter screen than the MacBook, but when I'm using it at night or in a dark room, the lowest brightness setting is still way too bright. Like if I'm tired and I wake up and I want to do something real quick and I open it and turn it all the way down in brightness, it is still like way too bright for me to like really want to look at it. I'm like, oh, it's still so bright. Oh, god damn. So the screen is almost too bright. And I guess that's good if you work outside. But again, because the battery life is so ass, why would I work outside? I need to have it plugged in, so I can't work outside or anything unless I have a plug available. So the bright screen is almost pointless. And the 4K is definitely pointless because no one can really detect 4K on a screen this size. I mean, so you can pixel peep and really see, but let's be honest, 4K, it's only really a thing you need on TVs. Here's the thing with the touchscreen. It's very convenient, I guess, when you're scrolling and everything, but it also just gets fingerprints all over the screen. So when you're not using the touchscreen, you're just looking at your finger smudges and everything. And when you turn the computer off, you can actually see which spots, you know, you smudged up the most because what, you're scrolling on the sidebar. So it's all smudgy on the sidebar, all the taps that you did when you were selecting things on the screen. So it's a touch screen, but admittedly gets the screen dirty because you're touching the screen. It is useful when the trackpad gives out on me. But again, I wouldn't really need to use the touch screen if your trackpad would work. If it would just work as intended, there's no need for the touch screen. And one thing that I've realized is that I really don't miss not having a touch screen on the Mac at all. Like I never even think to reach up and touch the screen just because the trackpad feels nice, it works all the time. The keyboard feels great, the hotkeys, the volume and everything feels great. Everything feels great, so I really don't feel the need to have a touch screen anymore. It doesn't, it's like one of those things where on paper it makes it better, but in practice, I don't give a shit. It's one of those internet arguments that people will have. Oh, Windows is better because this. No, Apple's better because that. It's like, no, bro. Just you just have to use it to really see. But like on paper, yeah, I could see how you could think that. Ultimately, man, here's my verdict. I may go back on this at some point, but as it currently stands, I don't think I'm ever gonna get another Windows laptop. I cannot imagine going back to another Windows laptop after experiencing this. And oh, here's the kicker. Hold up. So I spent $325 on my MacBook, right? Got it on the marketplace. You know, it's cool and dandy. Dude sold it for a good price. Guess how much I paid for my Dell? $2,100. I could have gotten pretty much 7 of these for the same price as my Dell. Granted, this is used. The Dell I got was brand new, so that's cool. I had a warranty, I guess. I did need it because the battery clunked out on me. But I think when this dropped, I don't know what this cost. I want to say it was $799? I don't think it was $699. But this is the lowest spec M1 MacBook Air you can get. So even for $700, $600, $800, this shit is still light years ahead of the Dell in terms of just almost everything. Except Windows itself. The Windows software saves the Dell because OneDrive works, all the Windows programs are great, all that stuff is good. And actually, going to the Windows software part of it, another thing I like more on the Dell, or I guess Windows in general, is the multitasking. When you drag a program to the sides or the top or the corner and it'll like lock the screen in that section. I think that's way better on the Dell Windows side of things. But I just updated my iPad to macOS 15, I think, or Sequoia, and they just added that feature in as well. But even though they added in that feature, it still works way better on Windows. It's not even up for comparison. But this thing has just changed the way I do things so much that I just had to get the word out. If you're thinking about buying a MacBook, or you never had a MacBook before, or you don't have that much money for a computer, for $300, if you can find one on the marketplace, and I found at least 2 other ones for $300, same spec, 8 gigs of RAM, 250 gigs of storage. If you need a good computer but don't have a lot of money, there's nothing else to buy. Don't even think about anything else, because nothing else for $300 will do what this does. It won't edit 4K footage. It won't run all your programs seamlessly. It won't, Apple ecosystem, so you're locked in. You can send iMessages if you want, if that's what you do. You can FaceTime on this if you want. So you get all the Apple pros. It's a really powerful computer. You can do Photoshop on here, Illustrator, you can make logos or whatever. It's just all around, for the price, for what you can get this used, this is the greatest computer on the market, bar none. And it's not even close. In terms of price and performance, nothing comes close to this. It's ridiculous. This thing has blown my mind with everything I've thrown at it and how well it handles it. It's great. Like, it's fantastic. I've never had a MacBook, but I'm convinced now. And I don't think I'm going back to a Windows laptop. Now, a Mac desktop, relax, okay? I'm still gonna stick with my, my PC. I don't see myself getting an iMac or a Mac Mini or anything anytime soon. But laptop-wise, I don't think I can go back. Once you go Apple, you don't go back. Wait. Once you go Mac, you don't go back. That shit is facts, man. Once you go Mac, you don't go back, bro. At least for the laptops. For the desktop, it's up in the air, because, PCs, you can game better on them and all that stuff. But the MacBook, with no fans, too. That's the crazy thing. No fans. But yeah, I just can't recommend this enough, man. If you're a creator of any kind, this is great. It's great for typing, Photoshop, video editing. Just, if you're creative, you need this. Windows, you gotta step it up. I'm sorry, you gotta get on the ARM train. Leave Intel. I don't know what you gotta do. You gotta make your own processor, make it ARM. I don't know what you gotta do, but Apple is killing you guys right now. Killing you guys in the laptop department. At this point, I feel like it might just be a compatibility thing, because Microsoft, they make Windows, but they don't make the processor, and they also don't make the computers half the time, unless you get the Surface computers, which those are crazy expensive. But Apple, they make the processor, they make the motherboard. I think they make the motherboard. They make the chassis, they make the keyboard, they make it all, so they can all get it to work in just a seamless package. Ever since they dropped the Apple Silicon chips, I don't think a Windows device has ever truly competed with these, if I'm being honest. I mean, that's it. I don't really have anything else to say. I kind of just wanted to get on here, share my thoughts. And yeah, it only has 256 gigs of storage, but I have an external SSD that has 1 terabyte, and that's more than enough. And if it really comes down to it, all I need to do is find some Wi-Fi, and then I can just upload things to my OneDrive. So it works. The package works for me. It's great for editing. It's great for everything. I keep repeating myself, but it is just such a great all-around device. And I'm just so happy with the price I paid for it, especially when you compare it to my Dell that I spent fucking $2,000 on. I'm about to sell this bitch in a sec. Pissing me off. If you guys have, I don't know, any comments, leave some comments. Tell me I'm stupid and I forgot this feature that can change my perception on either device or something. I don't know. Let me know how you feel about it. All you Mac people, have you been living like this whole time? Like, even when you had like Intel chips in the Macs, have you been living this great in terms of battery life and performance and everything? Or is it just like the Apple Silicon is such a great leap that it just transformed everything? Like, just let me know, because I've been living in the dark forever. But yeah, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. It's RemoteBry, the one and only, shooting a tech video. What am I, MKBHD? What the f? But yeah, RemoteBry, the one and only. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Let me know your thoughts on laptops and computers. Watch the rest of the channel if you like gaming content and witty commentary. And I'm out. Hope you guys have a good day. Peace.